Wow. Just a gut punch to start the season off with. There were such good vibes in San Antonio, and this, as it doesn't ruin anything, it just leaves a bitter taste in your mouth to start the season. We're going to break down the injury to Devin Vassell and what this means for the San Antonio Spurs here on Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. And on the road to 2K, prior to the start of the San Antonio Spurs season this year. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment moving forward. But if I sound a little bit more somber today than I typically do, it's because I am. I'm going to be quite honest with you. And the Spurs will be without Devin Vassell for the start of the regular season. Like, of course, it's not long term. So as of right now, it's not like it's the end of the world. But what it is just in a Western Conference that is so good and has so much depth, starting off slow is something that you can't afford to do, and this is something that could have that effect. But we do have the requisite pieces to fill in for Devin Vassell to make this not an opportunity where we are going to slide down in the rankings. We actually have a chance to still be where we think and where we believe we can and we should be. But to get into it real quick, to say why this man is out, Devin Vassell missed the start of the upcoming season as he continues to recover from his off-season surgery to repair a stress fracture in his right foot. And injuries to your feet are tough because obviously you need them to walk, of course, everything like that. But they're tough because, especially with some of the small bones in your foot, they can take a while to heal. I actually fractured my fifth metatarsal in my left foot, and it lingered for a long period of time. So doing activities, playing basketball, whatnot, you could still feel it there. And obviously with him playing such an athletic game and needing to be at 100% peak athleticism for him to be at health and be at full strength, this is something that could linger, which is what I'm a little worried about and why I have much more of a somber tone today. But Vassell is participating in non-basketball activities. His status won't be updated until November 1st, which means at a minimum he'll miss the opening week plus of the regular season. The 24-year-old has been sidelined since late last season with a stress fracture in his third metatarsal on his right foot. So I understand. It's not even that it's like, at least for me, it wasn't even a shearing sharp, like I can't do anything in life pain. It was just such a, I can't put pressure on my foot. And that was my fifth metatarsal. I couldn't imagine it being directly in the center of his foot. And for sure, just an unfortunate thing, a truly unfortunate thing. We're missing, to start the season, 20 points a game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 47% from the floor, 37% from 3, and a guy who has just continued to ascend in the minds of the San Antonio Spurs organization and from what we've seen on the floor. He had a real uptick in production last season, and we assumed that to only continue the fact that he was going to have a floor general in Chris Paul helping him move forward, helping him grow his game, and that's now going to be stinted. Not that it's going to be completely done and over with, but it's going to be stinted a little bit just because you don't get to work with him in the off seasons where he really can put the sprinkles on things, where he really can put his imprint on you. Obviously, he's a non-basketball activity, so you can pick his brain, but there are different things of being on the court when he can say, hey, in that situation, maybe jab left and go here because of this, rather than just like hearing it. When you're in those situations, you typically learn better there. But hey, Vassell is a smart young man. He'll be able to get himself ready for this next upcoming part. But with that unexpected bad news, there also does come some good news for the San Antonio Spurs here. We do have AC and Collins are going to hit the ground running. Both of them are ready to start the season. Fantastic report to receive. Collins with the torn labrum, final game of last season, has been subject to a ton of criticism. Yes, he's been one of the two players, him and Keldon Johnson, and then from the Silver and Black Faithful thus far, but right now he's the only big on the roster that may stretch the floor for some semblance of consistency. So we do have a few more bigs. I was speaking in a prior video about us not having that much front court depth. We do have more bodies than I had said in that, and we do have more health. We're getting more healthier bodies, so we do have enough depth. It's just that we don't have high level depth as of right now, but we have a high potential. A lot of these guys need to still grow into their own and become true players and true consistent pieces in the NBA. And you know what? There's more than time to do that, especially with this young roster with a great coach. You have a great structure around these young pieces. So they're going to be able to grow and be able to continue to grow and build their game. But Devin Vassell, we obviously have got to talk about options of how to make sure we can fill the void of him if it's only a week, if it's only 2 weeks. But I just get skeptical with that foot because I know from personal experience how it can linger and how you can think that you're okay, but then one step you feel like you're almost a little bit farther back. Obviously, you got to be in the walking boot. You've got to take the right precautions. Obviously, San Antonio, they're going to have way better medical assistance than I would and I had. So they're going to put him in the best position possible. And so he should be on time with his recovery. I'm hopeful that he can be back second to third week of November and we don't miss him for too long. But best options to replace Devin Vassell, we've got one here. We got Malachi Branham. Or Brown. Hold on. One here, we've got Malachi Branham. He makes sense. He truly does make sense. Obviously, we've seen him in the starting role as of last year when Vassell missed games last season. Most instances, he started for the Spurs. 21-year-old, knows the system, natural position as a shooting guard. He should be able to provide some outside shooting and mid-range scoring that Vassell offers, at least the best version of Branham should. And here's the thing. As I like it, I don't love it. And here's why. The defensive aspect of this move isn't great. Obviously, you've got Chris Paul, who is not a plus defender anymore. He is a average defender at best. Sometimes he can be a liability because he doesn't have the same athleticism and quickness defensively. You like him for his offensive prowess, but defensively, he is not the same guy as he once was. Of course, that's fine. He's 39 years old. He is an old man. He's, I believe, second to only LeBron in age in the league. You're going to get that over time. But that backcourt's not going to be the most defensively sound. When you have a guy like Vassell who can lock up, you can hide Chris Paul. When the rest of your lineup can play defense, you can hide Paul in the corner on whatever shooter. He is a very intelligent player, of course, so he's not going to always allow, he's not going to allow that backdoor cut. He's not going to not help weak side. He's going to be able to pick some passing lanes. He's going to be smart about it. But when you can't hide him and they're going to really put him in the PNR and make it difficult, especially in this switching league, it's going to put a lot on that front court, especially Wemby with him being 7'4", to really back that up. So I don't love this insertion for this roster here because of what we have at that point. I mean, last year you've got 9 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover, 43% from the floor, 35 from 3. So the offensive game and the ability to stretch the floor is there, which can create a lot of offense, but you're really trading offense for defense. And at this point in time with Wemby, if you had Vassell, you had the offense and defense there. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be Pop really playing around with these rotations and showing why he is an elite coach in the NBA today. So we'll see what they do there. But moving forward, we are going to talk about the other option. We could start Stephon Castle there, have him start the season. But at the same time, it was nice to have him not have to put that onus on his shoulders early. But I mean, he is a top 4 pick. He has the potential to be a Rookie of the Year candidate. He is going to be the Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. And it's not just a Spurs fact. It's because he's in the best situation to succeed when you have, I understand you got these young rookies, Alex Sarr and others, who are in positions where they can just go put up stats because they're playing. But like, they don't have the infrastructure around them like Stephon Castle does, and they don't have the star in Wemby that Stephon Castle does. The thing with Stephon Castle, though, is as Branham doesn't have the offensive prowess, doesn't have the defensive prowess, Castle right now doesn't have the shooting. He can get downhill. His aspirations are to play point guard, but he is not a three-point shooter. He's clearly a talented guy. Defensively, you are putting in a guy who is going to make instant impact, but he's not going to be the offensive threat and stretching the floor unless he's really improved his game in the offseason. That's what we got to love and see. We got to wait and see that. But if that's the case, then that's the perfect fit. If that's not the case, though, it's going to be difficult to have him in that rotation consistently because you want to space the floor as much as possible. So in these two scenarios, you're trading defense for offense. But there is one player that I think fits this perfectly well. Just want to show this real quick. This is what Stephon Castle was able to put up last year at UConn in a championship season. 11 points, about 5 rebounds, 3 assists. All of those upticked to 12 points, I think a little over 5 rebounds, a little over 3 assists, and his 3-point percentage ticked up to close to 30 when you went to March Madness time. So he was able to get better as the stakes got higher. But we'll see. It's not going to be a bad thing to insert him in that starting lineup, but the person that I'm really looking for would be one of 2 guys here. And the first guy is, you can go with Keldon Johnson back in the starting lineup, which I like because you're getting, if he's locked in defensively, plus you have that offensive potency, it's a guy who can really give you 90 to 95% of what Devin Vassell could give you, and then you're not really losing much. I don't love that for one reason. He is a guy last year that got brought to the bench, and you saw how that kind of affected his play. I know that he knows what his role is going to be this year, and he understands that Vassell is a better player than him at this point and that he's more valued. But if you have him in that starting lineup and then move him to the bench, he's going to get the rhythm of being a starter and then have to get the rhythm of being a bench player, which he needs to keep that because mentally is where he really had his lapses last year, and that's where his demise of last season came. I think he definitely understood that, and now moving forward can be what you need. But the guy that I love in this role right now is Julian Champagnie. He's tall, not a liability defensively. He can stretch the floor. With him, the ability for him to stretch the floor, I think adds such a great prowess and such a great opportunity for the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, we see here, it was 7 points, 3 rebounds, and assists last season, 41% from the floor. That could definitely improve, but 36% from 3. He is 6'8". You want to fill that in with a 3-and-D guy. He can play defense. He might not be a lockdown defender, but what he can be is he can be a quality plus defender, and you could have a bigger lineup, and that's fine because you could have, obviously, Harrison Barnes can play a 4, he can play a 3, and he can not really play a 2, but he can be a stretch. He can be a stretch on the floor where you really are just having him as a wing, especially in this positionless basketball age that we're in. So you've got 2 6'7", 6'8" guys on the wing there. Plus, you've got Chris Paul. Plus, you've got Victor Wembanyama. And then you've got Jeremy Sochan who will be running the paint. So you're going to run a big lineup, and that might hurt your front court depth. But because of the fact that we're getting multiple bigs back before the start of the season, you can afford to have to get that bench a little bit smaller because you have the bigs and the pieces to actually make that work. That would be where I would go, would be Julian Champagnie, because I think that he could really impact the game offensively and defensively. Offensively by becoming a guy who can just be really that 3-and-D and getting open looks off of the action between Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama. Defensively won't be a liability, gives you the ability to really switch everything, and then you could hide Chris Paul because everybody's 6'8" and above otherwise, and you can really switch, make things much more difficult on the defense, especially in today's game. So that's where I would go, but get healthy soon, Devin Vassell. It's terrible that you're not going to start the season. We wanted you to be here for the start of the season. I get it. I mean, I didn't go through the same exact injury, but I went through pretty much a similar injury, and I understand that it can be just more of a nuisance and a hassle at this point rather than it being an extreme pain. So get well soon. This has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. Let me know in the comments who you think should fill his position in the starting role this upcoming season. I appreciate all of you guys, and I will see you guys very soon.